In a fantasy world full of magic, battles, and destruction, we see a whole ruined city, buildings destroyed, corpses everywhere, and the atmosphere itself gloomy and foggy, and from its look, it's clear that a massive battle had been raging. And in the heart of this devastation, a figure appears wearing a long black cloak, his eyes glowing with a terrifying red light and filled with dark energy. And this is our main enemy at the start, called the Corpse Leader, one of the strongest necromancers as they call him in this world. And the Corpse Leader is not just an ordinary villain. He used black magic to control corpses and turn them into soldiers fighting with him, and that made him a source of terror for all humanity because he destroyed cities and made the dead themselves turn into an army. And at that moment, the legendary hero Kalin the Saint, known as the Sword, appears before him. A tall knight with very serious features, wearing shining armor, and holding a huge magical sword glowing with light as if the light itself was protecting him. And Kalin is not just a strong or ordinary knight. He's from the category of heroes who have the ability to purify souls and break dark magic. And all the heroes were supporting him from behind, supplying him with the magic he would need against the Corpse Leader. And the battle between the two starts immediately and is terrifying in every sense of the word. Kalin attacks first, charging his sword with light that cuts the ground, and every time he gets closer to the Corpse Leader, the ground itself shakes from the power of the strike, but the Corpse Leader doesn't run. Instead, he responds with terrifying dark magic, summoning dead souls around him to choke and slow him down. And in the middle of these attacks, we understand from this battle that it's not their first meeting. There's a long history of fights between them, and this is the final confrontation. Kalin keeps attacking with power and actually starts to pressure the Corpse Leader, managing to break through his defense and wound him. But the Sorcerer had prepared a surprise, a forbidden spell called Soul Reincarnation, and he begins chanting the spell in an ancient language, the whole atmosphere changing, and the souls around him that Kalin had finished off start to dissipate, and the magic spreads. Kalin shouts at him, warning him not to continue or else he'll finish him before he completes the spell, but it's useless. The Corpse Leader continues what he's doing. So Kalin runs at full speed to attack him, and the Princess of Heroes supplies him with power, but it's too late. The Corpse Leader laughs, turning his face to the sky, and in a moment, his soul leaves his body and vanishes into a vortex of light. And here we suddenly shift to another world, in modern-day Tokyo, and we find a boy lying on the ground, still trying to get up, and as soon as he looks around, he's surprised. The place feels strange to him, and he keeps asking himself where he is and what brought him here. And he tries to walk a bit in the place, and at that time we see that his neck is injured, as if someone had tried to kill him, and as soon as the boy sees the world more clearly around him, he's shocked because this is not his world, and everything around him is new. Suddenly, a drone appears in front of him with a small camera filming him, and the person watching this video is very surprised because the boy is still alive. They had tried to kill him and were sure of his death. But strangely, he's up and walking in the place normally now, and the strange man is talking to someone on the phone, telling him what happened and agreeing with him that they will kill him again, but this time they'll make sure he's dead, and the operation will be done as agreed. As for the boy, he wanders through the city, surprised at the sight of people living happily without the destruction of the world he came from. He sits for a while on the steps, thinking about how he'll deal with the situation he's in, and at that moment, police officers come to him, asking if he needs any help. At that time, he doesn't understand a single word from them, but little by little, he notices that he can understand, as if the Japanese language is transferring to him, and he also starts to recognize the body he's in and learns that his name is Polka. And in the middle of the officer talking, he finally notices that Polka's neck is injured, and he feels that something is wrong, so he asks him to come with him to the station so they can investigate and find out who he is, or even help him. But at that moment, a girl no one knows appears, grabs his hand, and they run away from the police, running until they return to the place where he woke up. The girl is friendly, her smile never leaving her face, and he thinks she knows the owner of the body he's in, so he thanks her for helping him and for also helping him understand more about what happened to him. But the girl starts to explain to him that he doesn't need to thank her because the wound on his neck is actually her doing, and she tells him she killed him before and will kill him again, but this time she'll make sure he's really dead. But before she starts, she tells him her name is Saki, and the boy at that moment begins to remember what happened to him before he died, when Saki was trying to kill him and he was running from her. And the same man with the drone is still watching them, and we learn that Polka is 16 years old and someone paid a lot of money for him to be killed, and also personally requested that Saki be the one to carry out this mission if possible. As for the boy, he manages to escape from Saki, hiding and trying at that moment to control his body, noticing that his strength and skills are the same, but the difference is that the body he's in is weak and not capable of fighting. At that moment, Saki appears to him, throwing a set of knives at him, but he manages to dodge them, and Saki tries in every way to hit him, but he knows how to block her well and runs from her. her. But she takes a knife and throws it at him, hitting his leg and making him unable to move. But he pulls the knife from his leg, keeps limping until he manages to hide in a certain room, but Saki still manages to find him, and before she kills him, she tells him that in this room, many people had died before at her hands. So at that moment, he tries to focus with himself, and he manages to see all the spirits and ghosts in the place, realizing then that his spiritual power is still there, called the evil eye, and through it, he can control spirits and fight with them. Suddenly, his eyes turn red, and he opens a gate from which a huge hand, made of all the spirits in the place, emerges, killing Saki in a very brutal way. After that, we return to the world of the corpse leader and Kalen, and he's standing, talking to the Princess of Heroes, who congratulates him on his victory in the battle and his defeat of the corpse leader. But he doesn't feel the triumph, because at the last moment, before he drove his sword into his body, he strongly noticed with his evil eye that the leader's soul left him and moved somewhere else. And he only killed the body he was in, and when the corpse leader's body died, the mind inside it also died. And we understand from this that the boy in Tokyo is now controlled in his body by the corpse leader, and Polka isn't feeling or remembering well the things that happened to him before in the corpse leader's body. Because his mind died with his old body, he decides to start a new life in a completely new world. And he also remembers his old life before they called him the corpse leader, and it turns out that when he was a child, his father sold him to an evil sorcerer who raised him to be a necromancer, but he was always kind and wanted to live in peace. He was living in a cave that from time to time was visited by a group of children and people to take shelter in, and he helped them a lot to the point that people loved him and began to accept the idea that there could be a kind necromancer. After he grew up a bit, he loved a girl and married her, but when people in other cities heard about him, they couldn't accept the idea and decided to attack him, wiping out his whole family and killing his wife in front of his eyes, and from that moment he was in shock. And all the kindness inside him turned, and he decided to take revenge, and from then on they called him the corpse leader because he wiped out a very large number of armies and people who had harmed him, his family, and the children he used to help in the cave. From the amount of evil he committed, he could no longer control himself or return to his nature because his enemies also increased, and he was forced to eliminate them. But there came a time when he wanted to start a new life, yet he was waiting for the right person to come and kill him so the reincarnation magic would succeed. And that's exactly what happened when he moved into the body of the boy named Polka, and now he's very upset and doesn't know what to do because Saki is dead, and he can't remember any spell that could revive her since he wanted to ask her about the name of the place they're in. And he also won't start his new life with a murder and then keep running from the city guards, so he keeps wandering around himself, nervous, and all of this is being filmed by the boy who's watching him, who's also shocked by Saki's death at his hands, recording the video and sending it to Clarissa, who seems to be their leader, and he tells her to watch the video carefully and tell them what to do. After that, we start to learn Saki's story, and we find that when she was young, she was a beautiful child who always laughed and loved her family very much, and they loved her too. But as soon as she grew up a little and became aware, she saw a Yakuza gang leader killing her father and mother in a horrific way, the leader enjoying very much what he was doing. At that time, she suffered a huge shock in her life, and when she grew up a bit, she decided to take revenge on all killers and began working with Clarissa, asking her to go and take revenge on the gang leader who killed her family. And indeed, Clarissa gave her the permission, and Saki finally went and took her revenge on him. She tortured him in the most brutal ways possible, making him remember everything he had done to her family in front of her while he was being tortured and begging her for forgiveness. But at that time, all she was thinking about was revenge, so she didn't hesitate for a single second and finished him, and she felt then that she no longer enjoyed it like before. So she decided to try something new and eliminate ordinary people, not killers like she used to do. And the next mission immediately from Clarissa was to finish off Polka, and indeed she went and struck his neck and he died in front of her, but still she didn't feel that she enjoyed what she did. She felt that after she had achieved her revenge, there was no need to live any longer so she wouldn't harm someone innocent, so she decided to kill herself. But before she jumped, Takumi, the man controlling the drone filming Polka, contacted her. He told her that if she wanted to kill herself, she could do that, but first, she had to finish her mission because Polka was still alive and hadn't died. She was very surprised because she was sure she had killed him, but she went back and what happened, and now we see Saki waking up, and Polka is happy because he succeeded in bringing her back with a bit of magic he still remembered, with the help of Takumi and Clarissa. But as soon as she wakes up, they tell her that she really died and they can't bring her back to her original state, as if she had become a zombie. We go back about an hour earlier before Saki gets up, and we learn that Takumi is a smart boy who loves drones very much and loves to watch the world and people through them. But of course, he didn't have permission to use them, so he used them secretly behind the police's back. And through them, he used to help killers hide victims' bodies until he worked with Clarissa and started carrying out her orders. He was the one who told Clarissa about the location of Saki and Polka so she could go and take revenge on Polka for what he did to Saki. Indeed, Clarissa went, bringing a gang with her to take revenge on Polka, but they were surprised that he was doing magic and wanted to revive Saki, and this magic thing was completely new to their world. They didn't believe Polka would revive Saki, thinking it was all just some visual effects to deceive them, so she ordered the gang to prepare weapons to attack Polka. So Polka prepared himself and set up many magical gates around him filled with weapons, and Clarissa reconsidered the step she was about to take so she wouldn't regret it later. But at that moment, she received a message with a recorded video showing that there was a fire in a building near them, and this building was full of children trapped inside. She felt very sorry for the children but decided to leave this mission to the police and firefighters. But as soon as Polka learned there were innocent children who would also burn inside, he asked Clarissa to tell him the location of the fire so he could help the children, because he couldn't bear to see them burn in front of him like what happened to his family long ago. Indeed, Clarissa agreed and asked Takumi to give him the location and watch him very carefully so he wouldn't escape. And as soon as Polka arrived at the fire scene, he jumped into the building and found that the souls of the adults were still inside the fire, so he absorbed them, recruited them, and made them save the children from the fire. Takumi saw everything Polka did, so he was even more shocked and spoke to Clarissa, warning her to be careful with Polka because he was a dangerous person. She agreed with his decision and told him there was actually no reason to attack since Saki was about to wake up. And as soon as Polka returned, Clarissa asked him who he was and how he could do all that, and Polka told her he was a necromancer in his world, and this whole world was strange to him. He asked her what could make a person have status and live in peace in their world, so she told him that anything he wanted to achieve, he must have money. And she decided to offer him help, guide him, and let him join their group until he could rely on himself and achieve everything he wanted. And Polka agreed and liked her proposal very much. And the news of rescuing the children spreads in an unbelievable way, and the whole city is talking about it, that they saw skeletons standing in the windows, and they were the ones who saved the children, and some people saw a lot of smoke coming out and couldn't see clearly, but they could see many bones. But what reassures is that the children all survived and are in good health, and Saki sees the news and is very surprised by what happened yesterday and believes in the existence of ghosts. And while she's watching the news, Polka starts showing off his abilities in front of her and in front of the new team, making the spirits work under his command and transfer everything to him. Suddenly, Takumi asks Saki if she's bothered by sitting with the person who finished her off, so she answers him and says that she considers herself never to have died before, that the matter is very exciting, and that she has no problem at all. And it's clear that Saki is a bit crazy, and Clarissa has the team sitting in a big building, and the team likes it a lot and calls it the corpse building. Polka tells them he's sorry if he's bothering them or putting them under pressure because he still doesn't know anything about the new world, and he wants to learn and know more about it, and Takumi answers him, telling him they surely don't mind. As for Polka, his family is looking for him, so the corpse leader thought that since it's summer vacation, he told Polka's real family that he went on a journey of self-discovery and wants to live adventures with his friends. He also suggested to Clarissa that he send them messages regularly to reassure them about him, so Takumi tells him that this is a very smart way to hide a person's death. But Polka gets upset and feels lost and confused, not knowing what to do because he only knows his family name. So Takumi tells him to try to extract Polka's memories and learn about him, his place, his family, and his life, and that this will help him a lot. Polka tells him that he actually did that, and it was easy for him to extract his language because that's very easy, but it was hard for him to extract old memories, and that Polka's last memory was his death at Saki's hands, which shocked him before he died and made him forget most memories. Polka talks to Takumi, telling him that their world is very different from the corpse leader's world. For example, whales in the human world are completely normal creatures and common, but in the corpse leader's world, they are legendary beasts. And the most important thing for Polka is that in their world there's no Guildwood Kingdom, so Takumi is surprised by the name and asks him what it is, but Polka doesn't answer his question yet and tells him that in his world he was an outcast, everyone hated him and didn't like him, and he was something huge and very horrible. They used to call him the corpse leader, so Saki likes the name a lot, and here we're sure that Saki is truly crazy. Takumi jokes with him to get him out of the mood and asks him if he doesn't mind that Saki is sitting with them. She cut his neck before, and after coming back from death, she lost her mind. Polka tells him that the real Polka, the owner of the body, is the one who died, and he hadn't yet entered his body, so he didn't feel anything, and it doesn't matter to him. And actually, the original Polka's soul entered the drone, and he can communicate with it, and he has no problem forgiving Saki, so there's no problem. Takumi is very surprised and asks him if he actually communicated with Polka's ghost. Polka tells him not only did he talk to him, but he's also sitting with them now and listening, and he points to Takumi's drone. It's clear that he let Polka's soul possess the drone, and he tells him that if he doesn't mind, it will stay possessing it until he finds something else for it. So Takumi gives in and tells him there's no problem, but asks if he means that human souls to him are like a game he changes at will. Polka tells him he won't deny it, human souls are indeed like a game to him. Here Takumi feels danger from Polka and decides to be very careful of him. Polka interrupts his thoughts and asks him how he can make money in this world and what suitable jobs he can work in. Saki tells him, what do you think of killing and stealing? So he answers her that he's not that skilled in those topics, especially in the new body, but Saki encourages him a lot when she tells him that if he could kill her, he can surely kill others. She clearly has a lot of confidence in herself. A guest comes to visit Saki because she's known as a very skilled killer, and the guest tells her that there's a gang that wants to kill him and is watching him, so if she can help him. Saki tells him she's busy with a mission now, but the guest begs her, saying he's in great danger, and suddenly Polka cuts them off and tells him he agrees to carry out his mission. At the same time, Saki agrees and tells him that since Polka agreed, she agrees to the mission. The man takes them to the gang's place and tells them the gang is sleeping inside and that they're more like madmen and serial killers who not only kill the target but also his whole family. Saki discovers it's a trap set by the gang, and the gang starts attacking her one after another, but Saki is very strong and beats them all. But the man who set her up shoots her in the back and tells her they're not just killers, they're avenging their leader's dignity, the leader whom Saki killed in one of her missions. He looks behind him and sees Polka standing there, threatening to kill him and telling him he'll wipe them all out. He also forgot to tell him that Saki became a zombie and won't die from a few bullets, and that she's become stronger. Saki gets up at that moment, and all the gang members are shocked by her, not understanding anything. But they keep attacking Saki, and Takumi calls Polka to tell him it's a trap, but Polka had already known that from the start and agreed to the request after asking the spirits of the children who wanted to take revenge on the gang. He indeed summons the spirits and starts attacking the gang, killing them in a very brutal way. Polka apologizes to the children, telling them he took their revenge and that the gang is dead and won't harm their families again. When they return from the mission, Takumi reassures them and is very surprised by Polka. He had thought he was a bad person and that souls were a toy in his hands, but Polka tells him at that moment that his weak point is children. Takumi rethinks Polka, and after seeing him as a dangerous person who doesn't deserve to live, he now sees him as someone somewhat good. Polka sits reading a book and learns more about the new world, discovering that vampires here are just legends. But in his world, they are real, and he tells Saki he could turn her into a vampire with magical power. Takumi becomes curious, watching them, and goes to ask Polka what will happen to Saki and what the advantages are of her being a zombie. Polka tells him that she heals her body from wounds on her own. She resists decay, will be stronger than before, and her saliva, if she bites someone, could paralyze them for a short time. Suddenly, Saki goes to try it on Polka, and he's paralyzed, shocking Takumi, and she offers to bite Takumi, but he refuses and calls her crazy. We go to the place where the gang was killed, and we find that the police are investigating the matter and are surprised by the presence of bodies and limbs tangled together and huge chaos. There are still some gang members alive, and this news reaches Polka, and he's surprised that there are still gang members alive. But he makes sure that even when they wake up, they won't understand or know what happened, and Polka made sure that none of them would be able to kill innocent people again. After that, Iwanom appears. He's a senior investigator and a raised assistant in this murder case. They see that the matter is difficult, but it's clear that supernatural cases are not new to them, and they have dealt with such cases many times before. And the detective meets them at the Shinjuku police station and tells them that cases of this type are hard to solve, and their job here is to gather as many resources and pieces of evidence as possible. He tells them it's not normal to see skeletons in the middle of the fire or bodies tangled together in a strange way at the crime scene. He tells them that there are very dangerous criminals still roaming freely in the city streets and haven't been arrested, and he suspects they might be the cause. The female detective adds important information that the footprints at the strange bodies crime match the footprints of Lamos. He is a very dangerous criminal, and the whole meeting is just opinions and guesses, and no one knows anything or understands what's going on. Someone at the meeting says, why couldn't the skeleton scene be fake and all fabricated? But the detective replies, telling him if it's not real, how did the children not die and come out of the fire in good health? Also, all the cases they investigated, the perpetrator turned out to be a real person, not a ghost or sorcerer, sure, so there must be a mystery behind all this, and he's convinced the perpetrator is a real human, not a ghost, and since he's human, he insists on knowing him. We go to the corpse building with Polka and Tokami, and we find that Polka transferred the original body soul into a shark doll, and it worked with him, returning the drone to Tokami, who is very happy because he loves that drone a lot. Polka talks to the doll, assuring it that he'll take care of it but will borrow its identity and name for a short time, and the doll nods in agreement. Suddenly, Saki comes in happy about the doll, takes it from them, and tells them how cute and lovely it is. Saki talks to the doll, but it doesn't reply, and she gets annoyed, so Polka tells her he can make it talk but needs human vocal cords from someone. They are all shocked, and Polka tells them this consumes a huge amount of energy and effort and many spirits. But he can use gemstones, which let him focus hard and channel great magical power, and Polka dreams and says he'll be rich when he harnesses all that power, and he's happy. But Tokami crushes his dreams and tells him, let's see the prices of those gemstones you're dreaming about and see the bitter truth. And they go to a jewelry shop and find the price of one stone is 30 times their salary. Saki and Polka are heading home, and as usual, Tokami is watching them from above with the drone. Suddenly, someone attacks the drone, takes it, and starts talking to Tokami, telling him he knows he's listening. But Polka notices the drone and tells him it belongs to his friend. The stranger tells him, you mean Tokami? Polka says yes, but the man tells him that if he keeps hanging around with Tokami, he'll become as useless as him and must cut ties with him. Polka gets very angry, summons spirits, and pushes the man hard. He tells him he's the one who decides who his friends are, and we learn that the stranger's name is Erase, and he's an investigator in the Community Safety Division, but he's more dangerous and terrifying than any criminal. Once, street gangs attacked him, and he killed 8 of them mercilessly in the blink of an eye. Polka takes the drone from him, and Tokami tells him, never show your power or draw his attention, because if that happens, you'll never live a peaceful life again. Erase goes to interrogate Saki and Polka and chat with them to see if they're involved in anything illegal. But Tokami saves the situation, calling Erase and telling him these are 2 of his friends, to let them go, and that they're not involved in anything. He threatens Erase that he'll film him harassing them and post it online, and Erase will be exposed. Erase tries to turn Saki and Polka against Tokami, telling them he could betray his friends in the blink of an eye, talk behind their backs, and might even sell their secrets if he gets the chance. Polka gets angrier, his eyes turn red, and the evil and rage show on him. Here Erase is sure that this is no ordinary kid. There's a huge evil energy around him suggesting he belongs to a gang. Polka gets tense, thinking that no matter what happens, he can't reveal his power or energy, and he looks at Saki to see what she'll do. He finds she's disappeared, looks behind Erase, and finds Saki behind him, hitting him. Erase loses his balance, and Polka and Saki manage to escape from him at last. Here Erase is even more convinced they're not just ordinary kids, and that no ordinary girl could have the strength to hit him that hard. Tokami relaxes and is very happy about Polka defending him, but tells him what Erase said is true. Polka tells him that even if he did tell secrets, it wouldn't be more valuable than his friend's life, and even if it's true, he'll defend him again and won't hesitate. We return to Erase, and we discover that when Saki hit and kicked him, it left a mark. Erase goes to analyze the spot where Saki hit him, but the policewoman teases him, telling him it's the mark of a girl's shoe, and how could a woman overpower him? Then they tell him there's no need to analyze it. It's the same footprint they found at the corpse crime scene. They panic and are a bit shocked, but the policewoman tells him there's no need to worry, and the most important thing is to treat his wounds. For a moment, Erase is happy that he'll finally be involved in a tough and exciting case where he'll put in all his effort, and that this is their first clear lead. 2 officers arrive, apparently from another unit, and talk together, saying that the 3rd unit found evidence of Lamos. We learn that Lamos appeared 5 years ago, killing, stealing, and destroying buildings, being fierce and looking like a beast. Every time they tried to kill him with weapons, he was one step ahead and killed them all. One officer says he wished to arrest him himself, but will leave it to the 3rd unit. We go to the detective investigating supernatural cases, and we learn he's been trying for a while to meet Clarissa, and he suspects her. He tells her that he found one of her men at the corpse crime scene, that her organization is suspected, and as a police officer, he'll investigate her. Clarissa is a bit nervous but sits and faces him, and since the detective has no warrant, Clarissa understands the conversation is informal and illegal. The detective tells her he's sure the Reaper is the one who committed all these crimes from her organization, and that she must reveal his identity. He tells her some secrets about Lamos, saying Lamos took down 30 officers alone and is very strong. This is his trick to make Clarissa reveal her secrets too. Suddenly, while they're sitting, Saki and Polka enter the cafe, and he asks them where they're going. They tell him they came to Clarissa to sit with her. At the same time, a message is sent to the detectives group with Saki's description. The detective sees it, compares it, and realizes she's the one in front of him. Tokami, watching them, sees Erase entering the cafe and quickly warns Polka through the earpiece he's wearing, telling him if he can hear him, take Saki and run quickly from the back door. But it's too late, and Erase meets with the other detective, setting a trap for Polka and Saki, forcing them to answer questions, or they'll be in the grip of justice. Suddenly, the power cuts out, but Polka can see in the dark and takes Saki's hand to run. But something unexpected happens. Suddenly, Lamos appears, and they're all greatly shocked. So Clarissa's team gets ready to capture him, but Clarissa tells them that if Lamos's goal was to kill someone, then someone would have died the moment he entered, so they calm down a bit and wait. Also, they could never take him down. They're just well-trained girls, nothing more. Erase tells them that trying to guess what's going on in Lamos's mind is just a waste of time and that it's impossible to predict his actions no matter what. He tells them the police want to arrest him and that he's on the list of those wanted for justice. So they'll try to capture him, but there's no problem with a little illegal fighting and brawling. Then Detective Tsubaki reminds them they're surrounded by many witnesses and need to work legally, but Erase doesn't care and runs quickly to attack Lamos, as if he's been waiting for this moment for a long time. But Lamos is stronger and moves at lightning speed, and no one can even stand in front of him. Saki steps in when she sees no one can handle Lamos, but she also gets hit, and Polka is standing there watching with two choices: either run and not show his power to anyone so he can live in peace, or save Saki. He decides to save Saki and steps in, and here Clarissa blows out the candle she had lit so that no one can see Polka and his power and target him. Polka unleashes all his power, opens many gates, and summons many spirits, but Lamos is very fast and can avoid all attacks, and he can also see in the dark. Lamos manages to reach Saki and was about to kill her, but Saki, in her own way, says something in his ear to distract him for a moment and suddenly bites him, giving him temporary paralysis. It doesn't affect Lamos too much, but is enough to delay him for a good while. So Polka begins summoning all the spirits and all his energy, directing them toward Lamos, and prepares a very big spell. It was enough to finish Lamos off, or so they thought, but he turns out to be alive, and a huge collapse happens, and suddenly all of it disappears, the light comes back, and everyone is shocked by what's happening. Tokami can't believe they managed to survive Lamos, who has never left his target alive, and tells Polka there was no need to use all that power. But Polka tells him that the spirits chasing Lamos had a different opinion and wanted revenge. Polka tells them that what happened yesterday made him think a lot and make a firm decision. He will start a project so he can live in peace, and the project is fortune-telling. Polka manages to summon many spirits to help him in his task, and even summons a very powerful spirit, making it possess a pen, and the pen starts writing by itself. A very good idea that will make people take it seriously. As soon as they start work, the twins Shinoyama and Shizuki come in, and we learn they are relatives of the real Polka. Polka gets very nervous and wants the ground to swallow him out of embarrassment, not knowing how to handle the situation. He hides his face with his clothes and tells them he's not who they mean, but they think he's joking. Shinoyama asks Polka why he ran away from home, but Shizuki tells her to put those disagreements aside. They came as customers, and Shizuki tells him they want him to read their fortune. Polka tells them it's not the right time and to come tomorrow at 10 in the morning. Tokami tells the twins to leave now, but Shinoyama replies, asking who gave him permission to speak. Clearly, Shinoyama's personality is very strong, and she asks him what he'll do if they don't leave. Tokami tells her he'll call the police, which shocks the twins greatly, and he tells them, "What did you expect? You broke into a place after it closed, and the punishment is prison." The twins have bodyguards with them, and they were about to attack Tokami, but Shizuki stops them, and Polka tells the twins to leave now and that he'll come to their house tomorrow to visit them. After they leave, Saki asks him if he's really going to visit Polka's family tomorrow and how he'll do it. Of course, Polka needs Tokami in this task to get him information about Polka's family because he can't summon any memories related to his family at all. Tokami tells him that Polka's family is one of the most important and richest families around, and he's the second son of the Shinoyama family. He tells him that his father, Rosen, is 79 years old and that if anything happens to him, Polka will inherit a very large part of the fortune. Polka's father is being threatened with death, and they don't know by whom, but it's surely someone from his relatives because of the inheritance. The real Polka, inside the doll, starts making strange movements from the shock. Tokami tells him that if he returns home, it'll be like entering enemy territory. But Saki encourages Polka, having full confidence in him and his abilities. Polka says he needs a bodyguard for himself, one with a human appearance to protect him. They think about who that person could be, and clearly, they choose Saki as the most trusted one. Hopefully, she won't expose them with her crazy crazy antics. Polka goes the next day to the mansion where he lives and is shocked by the beauty and size of the place. As soon as he enters, he is welcomed by his relatives Kazuki and Shizuki, and also greeted by his relative Takaru, who is the CEO of the family company. From his looks, it's clear he's not straightforward, and you can tell he has a big secret behind him. He starts asking Polka about his self-discovery journey and what he did in it, but Polka avoids the question, telling him he discovered many things about himself. Takaru notices the girl with Polka and asks who she is. Saki replies, telling him, "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Saki from the Sakura family," and she shakes his hand. She tells them that Polka saved her from death when she had lost hope in life, and without him, she wouldn't be sitting with them now. She says he saved her more than once and made her love life all over again. Takaru replies, saying it's clear Polka has truly found someone to love. His personality is very sharp and cold, and he always embarrasses whoever is in front of him. He even tells Saki she's the daughter of a steel company owner. But Saki replies that her family business no longer exists, and Takaru tells her father helped him a lot in his youth and apologizes for what happened to them. Then Kiri, Takaru's wife, apologizes to Saki for what happened to her family and tells her she's there for her anytime she needs her. But Takaru embarrasses her, telling her not to make promises she can't keep. Kiri tells him that Saki will be part of the family since she will marry Polka and that the family must stand together. But Takaru doesn't reply and instead welcomes Saki as a friend of the family so she can feel at ease. Saki thanks him very much, and Polka is surprised at how perfectly Saki is playing her role. This can't be their crazy Saki, but now in front of him is refined Saki. Suddenly, the shark doll with Polka's soul inside moves, and Shizuki sees it and asks if the doll moved or if she's imagining it. Seo, Polka's niece who believes in legends and ghosts, replies that it's a shark from hell and starts saying very strange things. Everyone finds her personality weird and suspicious, but no one pays attention to her words. Here, all Polka is thinking about is how to remember the family names and learn their details without making them doubt him for even a moment. He asks them about the rest of the family, and Kazuki replies that her mother and father are working abroad. The others are at work, and while they're talking, their grandfather, the head of the family and leader of the Shinayama group, enters. He looks tired and exhausted, and Kiri scolds him for getting out of bed without calling anyone. He tells her it's one of the few days he feels better. One of Polka's relatives seizes the opportunity and asks him what he thinks about opening a pharmaceutical branch in the company, but he says he's retired and doesn't want to talk about work at all, telling him to discuss the matter with Takaru instead. Polka gets up to speak with his father and apologize for running away from home, but his father forgives him, clearly loving him very much and treating him well. He says he's heard about Saki and wants to hear her story, telling Polka to follow him. He looks at Saki and tells her he'll take Polka for a while and that she should consider the house her home. If she wants to go to the garden to relax, she can. Polka goes with Rosen, telling him everything, saying Saki is related to someone named Clarissa, who rented him the building he lives in. He tells him about Takumi, also that he works as a fortune teller, and about a raise when he stopped and harassed them. Polka is telling his story, thinking he's fooling Rosen, and feels totally confident. Suddenly, Rosen asks him who he is. Polka says, "What do you mean?" Rosen tells him he may look like Polka, but his style and personality are completely different. He stands and points a sword at him, acting sharply. He tells him, "I may be old, but I've been through many trials and hardships, and most importantly, I can recognize my son very well." Then he asks the most important question, where is the real Polka? Polka says he will explain everything, but Kazuki and Shizuki are in danger, and he promised to protect them, asking Rosen to trust him. Rosen spares him, unable to kill someone who is not his son but has taken his form. We find out that Polka's relative who wanted to open the pharmaceutical branch is conspiring against the family and wants to take them down one by one. Kazuki and Shizuki overhear him, and when he sees them close, he wants to kill them and sets a huge fire in the house, having hired someone to do it. We then go to the detectives, still investigating all the recent supernatural cases. The detective is forced to seek the help of a criminal, feeling that this criminal can help him in all the crimes. Detective Tsubaki calls him the solitaire ghost. The criminal replies that it's an insult to his name, but he starts to like it a bit and speaks seriously. The detective tells him he wants him for a case, showing him the video of the skeletons that saved the children from the fire, and says that the link between this and all previous cases is the rapid spread of the rumor everywhere. Surely the solitaire has no information about what's happening. We go back to Polka's family home, where the fire has spread greatly. Someone appears, as if guiding Kazuki and Shizuki to a place to escape the fire. They walk behind him, but suddenly Kazuki stops, asking him where he's taking them, as there's no escape route there, and starts doubting him. The man replies that there's an exit he's spent 2 years building, laughing, and suddenly electricity sparks from his hand as he moves to harm them. They are very scared. There's a spirit walking with them, protecting them, but unable to do anything. Suddenly, as usual, Saki appears, saving the situation, hitting him hard, and telling him that the children are under her and Polka's protection. She tells him not to think of getting near them. Saki realizes she knows this criminal, and his face is not unfamiliar to her. The criminal tells her he met her at Clarissa's cafe and knows her. Saki senses he's afraid of her, realizes he's tense, and tries to provoke him, starting a fierce fight between them. Saki is stronger than him and dodges all his attacks, but the criminal is very smart. He lures Saki to chase him until he traps her and the children in a ring of fire with no way to escape. Suddenly, Polka arrives, summons the spirits, and saves them from the fire. He reassures them, telling them they're safe. Their relative, who ordered their deaths, is happy, walking away thinking they've died. But on the way, Takaru corners him, teaching him a lesson he'll never forget, telling him this is the fate of those who challenge his family. The relative tries to defend himself, saying that Firebug is to blame, but Takaru doesn't believe him. We discover that his relative hired an ordinary person, not Firebug, just someone who looks like him. While he's on the way, the real Firebug arrives, breathes fire, burns the fake criminal and the police car, and takes revenge for impersonating him. This means the real criminal is still out there and hasn't been caught. After they save the 2 children and everything is fine and the fire is put out and things settle, Polka sits with Rosen, and he's supposed to explain who he is and everything that's happening. But Polka tells him before anything that he wants a bit of privacy, and it's clear there are people with them but hiding. The boss is surprised that Polka can also see through walls, and indeed Rosen's guard is hiding inside the walls so that if anything happens to their boss, he can protect him. Rosen orders him to come out, and Polka tells him, "I expect you won't believe me, but I don't belong to this world." Polka tells him everything in detail, and the boss replies that it's hard to believe all this. Suddenly, he stands and points his sword towards Saki, telling her it's clear she's the one who slit his son's throat. Saki replies, yes. Rosen tells her that such an admission takes great courage and boldness and asks her if she's ready to die in a terrible way. At that moment, the shark doll containing Polka's soul jumps in front of Rosen and starts making cute movements, meaning he shouldn't kill Saki. This calms the boss down, and he asks them what's needed to return Polka's soul to his body. The corpse leader replies, telling him they need to provide another body to transfer Polka's soul into. The boss says in that case he has no problem providing the body, and although he's not forgiving Saki, she saved his grandchildren, so he's forced to let her live. Polka's father is shocked by all that's happening and very worried for his son. The real Polka likes Saki very much and keeps making cute movements toward her, not wanting anyone to harm her. Saki takes the doll, telling him it's very late for her to apologize to him, but she's sorry and thanks him for everything he did for her. As Polka and Saki are about to leave, Kazuki and Shizuki come to thank Saki for saving them, and they've grown very fond of her and attached to her. The detective receives word that a police car burned with the criminal inside, and he learns that the real fire breather appeared and was standing talking to Solitaire from behind a fence. Solitaire tells him he thinks he should focus on the skeleton case more than fire breather, and if he wants, Solitaire can find out himself what's behind that case. Suddenly, the power cuts out and Solitaire disappears from behind the fence, shocking the detective and surprising him at how he managed to escape in the blink of an eye, truly living up to his name as the Solitaire Ghost. The detective is busy with more than one case, his head about to explode from thinking, chasing more than one criminal, and holds an emergency meeting at the police station. One of the officers embarrasses him, saying Solitaire disappeared while he was with him. How did he let him escape? Belittling his abilities. The detective is very embarrassed and tells them he vanished into nothingness. The detective begins showing them Solitaire's crimes, which include murder, stealing a famous painting, painting an entire building sky blue to hide it from people, and his biggest and latest crime, kidnapping the Prime Minister in a very clever way. While the guards were distracted, he threw a piece of cloth on the Prime Minister, and when the guards rushed to remove it, he had disappeared in the blink of an eye. We understand that Solitaire does this for fun and loves drawing attention to himself. News of Solitaire's escape starts spreading in the media, and it's said that Detective Tsubaki wasn't doing his job and that Solitaire escaped right under his eyes, giving him a bad reputation. Polka, Saki, and Takumi hear the news, and Takumi tells them about Solitaire, saying he's never met him but he's a very very famous person in Japan and a great legend in crime. Everyone watching the news bulletin is surprised by the anchor's appearance and voice. He's not the anchor they're used to. Suddenly, the anchor removes his glasses and disguise, and they discover it's Sorcerer, controlling all television channels. He tells them their beloved Sorcerer is back, and he'll give the police a 1-week truce. After a week, he'll return with the biggest crimes he'll commit, and they should enjoy this peaceful life for a week. The police try to stop the live broadcast but can't, as he has hacked all the signals. Sorcerer appears on top of a building, meeting someone we'd never expect, Fire Breather, and here the Titans meet, planning something big. Polka is shocked by what's happening and how an ordinary person like Sorcerer can outwit an entire country. Takumi asks him if he didn't have people like that in his world, and Polka remembers and tells him there was the Kingslayer, the Dragon of Destruction, and the Imperial Dragon Worm, all of them very evil and dangerous, and that there's a big similarity between the villains and legends in his world and the human world. Meanwhile, we find that Sorcerer provokes Fire Breather, who starts breathing large flames at him, while Sorcerer runs away. He's also on the phone with the grocer, and we learn he's also a very dangerous criminal, trying to convince Sorcerer to do a real operation instead of wasting time. But Sorcerer just wants to play and have fun with the police, though in the end, he agrees. We go to the corpse building with Polka, who tells them that his world has many strong villains, and if Lamos were in his world, he would have been a huge danger. While they're talking, Polka's relatives walk in. Seo and her guard arrive, and Seo tells him to let her stay with him from now on, entering before anyone can reply. Polka is shocked and very surprised by what's happening. Seo says she'll be happy staying with them, and it's clear from their faces they're shocked and confused. Polka asks her why, when she decided to leave, she chose the place he's in, and why she came to him specifically. Seo tells him she'll explain later, but first she should introduce herself to those present. She introduces herself to Takumi, telling him she's Polka's niece and that she's older than him. She comes in carrying a large shark doll, telling them it's her companion and that she doesn't go anywhere without it. She also introduces them to her guard, whose name is Sheo. Takumi introduces himself, telling them he's basically Polka's co-worker. Polka asks her again why she came here and what happened. Seo goes silent, showing sadness, and gives a very strange answer, that her sharks burned. She says they burned in a very horrible sight, and they don't understand, but Sheo explains that all her sharks, souvenirs, and dolls burned in her room when the fire spread. We learn that Seo is very attached to sharks and anything shark-related. The maid tells Polka that Rosen sent him a message saying that his and Seo's rooms burned down, and that he should allow Seo and her guard to stay with him for a while until the rooms are rebuilt. Polka is very worried about what's happening, feeling that the building they're in is now known and being watched by multiple dangerous enemies. That's why Rosen decided to send Seo's personal guard to protect her in case of any attack. Polka thinks, what if Seo is actually behind the murder of the real Polka and was the one who sent Saki in the first place? Seo talks with Saki about sharks, asking her which types she likes more, and it's clear they're getting along really well. The next day, they all wake up active except Seo, who is still upset and troubled about what happened and can't recover, staying inside the shark doll. Takumi tells Polka they should clean an empty room for Seo and her guard so they can be comfortable. Saki suggests they buy them a bed since they can't sleep on the floor. Seo says that as long as she has her shark doll, she can sleep anywhere because she always sleeps inside it. The guard says he can sleep anywhere at all and they shouldn't worry about him. Takumi tells the guard they can't just ignore him. The guard says they shouldn't worry. He's only here for Seo's comfort. Polka asks the guard why he was chosen to be Seo's escort, but Sheo doesn't reply. He tells him he'll help him if he needs and that, of course, he'll take care of Seo. Polka asks him what the situation is at the house after the fire. The guard says the whole house is full of police investigating the fire and that it's better if he doesn't return there at all right now. While the investigators are working, Takaru arrives and asks them why they came today if the investigation finished yesterday. He clearly looks very annoyed. They tell him they're from a different department than yesterday and wanted to meet him, and that while it's bothersome, he has to tolerate them to continue the investigation. Takaru asks them if the one who set his house on fire was Fire Breather or who, and the detective says probably him, but they're still investigating and not certain. Takaru says that as far as he knows, Fire Breather is dead and won't commit any more crimes. The detective says it's not certain and that he needs to carefully review the case to try to reach the truth. The case will require a lot of effort from them, and Takaru tells them Fire Breather has caused them a lot of harm, being like a thorn in their family's side, burning buildings belonging to their clients and damaging their reputation. If he's not dead, they must arrest him. But if they arrest him and he escapes, then there's no point in catching him. Here Takaru takes a jab at the detective for arresting Sorcerer only for him to escape. The detective feels more embarrassed because this topic is very sensitive for him. Takumi tells them how can they just sit like that without acting, with the solitaire case still unsolved and him still at large. Here Takaru continues to embarrass the detective, telling them good hunting before leaving. Arase tells Detective Tsubaki that the two bodyguards behind Takumi look like criminals, saying he can tell from their looks. They happen to see a photo of the Shinayama family by chance, spotting Polka in it, and they try to connect the events, feeling shocked. They then talk about Saki for a bit, saying she left her footprints at the scene of the Tangled Bodies crime, and saying that the link between all these crimes is either Polka or Saki. Takaru is watching the detectives from above, and it's clear he has built a big gang network and controls everything, letting the detectives investigate at his convenience for his own purposes, which is that he wants to learn all of Polka's secrets, since his grandfather doesn't want to know anything, and he moves with his own plans without anyone knowing. We go to Polka, who has cleared a room for Seo and the guard thanks them a lot. At night, while they're sleeping, the guard wakes up, and it turns out he's spying on them, having installed microphones in their room to hear what they're saying. Polka is telling Takumi that he will return to fortune-telling, and the guard knows Polka is fake, wondering how the boss trusts him. But he's spying on him to learn all his plans and expose them. Seo remembers the boss convincing him to go with Seo, and he was excited because he thought he'd kill Polka. But the boss told him no, he was going as protection, and that Polka might not be the real Polka, but in the end, he's not their enemy. Seo was very annoyed but couldn't argue with the boss, so he was forced to agree. The boss instructed him to guard Seo and Polka and not harm Polka in any way. The boss told him if he wanted to refuse, he could, but Seo told him he could handle it and accepted the mission. We learn here that Seo hates Polka and wants to kill him. He is Rosen's son, and he remembers how his father was very cruel to him and sold him to Rosen for a very high price. Rosen agreed and took him. Rosen wanted him to test prosthetic limbs because Sheo's father had sold all his limbs. Rosen was very kind to Sheo, making him feel safe for the first time. Polka's whole family wants to kill him because he's Rosen's spoiled son and the one who will inherit everything, making him have many enemies. So it's hard for Polka to know who sent Saki to kill him. Sheo is still listening in as Takumi tells Polka he mentioned the poisonous destruction dragon in his world and asks what other dragons and legends exist there. Polka tells him about the dragon Malfi, a homewrecker who took human form and controlled members of the royal family, but she fell in love with the navy commander, and they fled together after the empire's fall. Polka says there are many other dragons in his world, each with a story it's known for. He tells them that anyone who hunts a dragon can sell every part of it for huge amounts of money. To make a dragon zombie, they have to buy a whole dragon, which costs a lot. Sheo hears all this, thinking they're talking about a story and wondering why they're telling children's tales. Sheo hears movement of skeletons inside but doesn't know what's happening. Inside, Polka is commanding the spirits in the skeletons to dance with Saki because he knows Saki's silliness and likes to go along with her. Takumi tells him it's a waste of magic and that they'll need it for more important things, but Polka says he's not using much power or magic. Sheo still thinks they're playing video games. Sheo keeps listening through the mic, thinking they're playing together and not understanding what's going on inside. His curiosity is killing him, and he wants to go in to see them. Polka talks about Sheo, saying how dedicated he is to his work, that he's surely awake now guarding Seo, and that he doesn't sleep and stays up all night. Takumi tells him he's in front of Seo's room, not next to it. Sheo is surprised how they knew his location when there are no cameras. This provokes Sheo even more, making him determined to expose him to everyone and vowing to kill him and anyone who tries to get close to Rosen. Everyone is after Polka, trying to get rid of him, even the detective who is now sure Polka is connected to all the crimes. He holds a meeting for the detectives, showing them pictures and information about Polka, so they can start monitoring him. They try to link everything together and gather information, but all they know about Polka is that he reads fortunes. They can't find anything else on him. Solitaire is walking around the city, having become very famous. People are taking pictures with him and love him despite him being a criminal. Suddenly he encounters officers who try to catch him, but of course he escapes. Saki and Polka are preparing for work and start receiving customers for fortune-telling when the detectives come in. Takumi hides quickly so Tsubaki doesn't see him, and Polka is in shock as the detective tells him he didn't get to know him well at Clarissa's bar when Lamos attacked them. The detective tells him he's off duty and just came to have his fortune read and ask a few questions. He tells Detective Arasi, how about you get your fortune read too? Maybe your luck will turn out good. But he refuses, saying he'll just watch since he knows his bad luck. Detective Tsubaki says he'll give it a try, and it seems very exciting. Saki tells him to come with her to the other room. Tsubaki sits down and says he wants him to guide him on the right path and check his luck. Polka understands he means to tell him the location of the prisoners, so he tells him, "I can't guide you to the escaped prisoners. I can only tell you what to do." Tsubaki replies that this is his job anyway, and he'll handle it and find those criminals. "If you're good at fortune-telling, I'm good at preventing crimes," he says, "so tell me how many crimes I'll be able to stop." Polka says he'll just guide him on the path, and it's his choice from there. Sheo is standing there watching everything, thinking if Polka makes any move, this is his best chance to tell the detectives. Polka begins reading Tsubaki's fortune, telling him what he sees. Many defenders around him protecting people's safety, and many hands surrounding him, shielding small children. Tsubaki interprets this in his head, realizing it's about shields that protect from attacks, and thinks Polka must know he works in community security. He doesn't believe Polka is actually reading fortune, thinking he must have gathered this info beforehand or is wearing hidden earpieces with someone feeding him personal details. He doesn't trust him at all. Polka continues, saying he has a scar that has marked him and he never forgets it, always remembering it, and that it affects him. The detective asks if he knows who hurt him to say the name. Polka starts showing more of his abilities. He orders the spirit in the pen to write, which makes Detective Tsubaki nervous and scared. The pen writes something that angers the detective, who tears the paper, grabs Polka by the clothes, and asks how he knew what was written. Tsubaki calms down and apologizes for getting angry, giving him his fee, a large amount of money, and says goodbye. Before he leaves, Polka tells him the one who read his fortune was the corpse, not Polka. The detective thinks he's joking and says that name will cause him trouble, then leaves. After the detectives leave, Seo asks who they were, saying they looked very suspicious. Saki tells her they're police officers, so Seo assumes they came because of the fire that happened to her family to investigate, but they left immediately. She says they act strangely, and everyone is curious about what was written on the paper that angered the detective, but Polka refuses to say. Seo wants to figure out how Polka knew all that, so he tells Seo he's gonna buy some things so he can be alone and think for a while. We go to Detective Tsubaki, who's thinking over everything that happened. Arasi asks what was on the paper, very curious, but the detective tells him to give him time to arrange his words and thoughts before saying, because the matter is sensitive. Arasi tells him to take his time. The most important thing is that he's back to normal and not angry anymore. Clearly, the paper matter is very sensitive, and we discover Sheo is watching them, wanting to gather as much information as possible. At the same time, a huge crime happens in the city. A massive fire breaks out in a bank, caused by the fire breather. We find he also burned the money, not just the bank. We don't understand why he's doing this, as he didn't even rob the bank, and he's working together with Solitaire. Detective Tsubaki goes to Clarissa and tells her he's tired of her games, and now he's sure she has a connection to Polka. He says he went for a fortune reading and got a message that only he, Clarissa, and a third mutual friend know about, but that friend is dead or missing. He tells her no one else currently knows about this. Clarissa says she doesn't understand anything and that it makes no sense, and that he shouldn't suspect her. She's truly away from trouble. She asks if Polka did something to anger him that much, and the detective says the message had the name San and a dangerous symbol drawn. We learn this is a detective shunned by the police for his cruelty and misconduct. He thinks San recruited Polka and that San is actually alive. He also thinks Clarissa is the one who introduced them and is still in contact with San. Clearly, this is an old, big matter between Clarissa and the detective. He tells her not to involve the kids in their problems, meaning Polka. Clarissa tells him it's all delusions, that she hasn't done anything, that she even did Polka a favor by renting him the building, and she's never harmed him in any way. Clarissa tells him she made a smart move when she housed Polka in her building, and this way she can strengthen her relationship with the Shinoyama family, and she couldn't waste such an opportunity. The detective is convinced by her words that she made Polka live in her building for her personal goals, and he asks her again, confirming if she told him about San or not. Clarissa tells him she would never do that no matter what, and the detective tells her if Polka gets curious and does some investigations about San, Polka will be in great danger and will put himself in endless trouble. Clarissa tells him he seems very sure that San is still alive, so the detective says he got information in the form of symbols only he knows the meaning of, proving that San is alive. Before leaving, the detective tells her she's acting dumb and pretending to not know anything, but he knows she understands everything, and to deliver his message to Polka and Saki to never think about investigating San and to stay away from trouble. He says one last thing, that this time he'll clean the country and the police from corruption and prepare the prison for San, and he leaves. Two of the girls who work with Clarissa arrive, very scared and surprised by what happened. They tell tell her, what if Polka really got curious, found out who San is, and decided to find his location? Clarissa, with her usual coldness, tells them not to worry. Polka only cares right now about how to gather money, and his obsession with it is more important than anything else. Sheo all this time is standing there listening to everything happening, adding Clarissa and the detective to his list to investigate, gathering information. He's doing this to protect the boss and Seo, wanting to destroy anyone who could get near them, and he's ready to do anything as long as the boss is safe. We learn the spirit inside the pen is San, who knew the detective, and there was animosity between them. He wanted to annoy him, so he wrote the symbol on the paper. They used to call the spirit the rogue inspector. Polka asks the spirit, tell me what you wrote on the paper, but the spirit teases him, saying, pay me and I'll tell you, and tells him the amount is no less than 1 million yen, shocking Polka. The spirit reassures him, saying he'll make it up to him for that money. Stick with him and he'll earn a lot. Takumi responds, saying he's the reason the cops suspects Polka and will arrest him because of what he wrote. The spirit apologizes, saying he only wanted to prove Polka really reads fortunes and isn't a fraud. He feels regret and tells them he's sorry for getting them into something like this. Polka tells him he's not sorry for anything he did to the police, and San says he wasn't that bad of a person. We see that one criminal after another begins escaping from prison after the detectives worked so hard to catch them, not understanding what's happening. The fire breather is followed by Solitaire, spreading chaos in the country. We see Solitaire disguised, entering the police station to meet the grocer, wanting to ask for information. He gives him a paper and asks what he knows about this symbol. The grocer tells him everything has a price. We learn some info about the grocer, that he's from a big merchant family that has lived for centuries, generation after generation, and the current grocer is from the 5th generation. He's kept in a high-security prison, surrounded by actual grocery and food items. This was an agreement between him and the prison so he wouldn't escape. They'd provide him the environment he grew up in. Solitaire sits chatting with him, showing off his skills. The grocer tells him he's wasting his time and it will cost him more, so Solitaire says, tell me the information I came for. The grocer tells him these symbols have many meanings, and tells him the slanted line means sword. The grocer stops talking and tells him if he wants more info, he has to pay again. The grocer asks, are you sure? The price I want isn't a small amount, and falls silent for a moment. We come to the next day, the long-awaited day when Solitaire told the country to watch for his moves. Suddenly, people look to the sky and find it filled with airships with the same symbol Solitaire wanted to know the meaning of drawn on them. Polka sees the symbol and finds it very familiar, telling them that this symbol is the emblem of the former empire in his world, and he's shocked. Polka remembers the days when he was in his world before becoming the corpse, and his caretaker told him, memorize this emblem well, this is the emblem of the empire, and Polka tells them, feeling very surprised and shocked, remembering that when he came to a new world, he thought he had erased his entire previous life, but it seems his world is still chasing him. Tsubaki sees the symbol and tells Erase, this is the symbol Polka wrote and I didn't want to tell you, but now there's no need to hide it, the whole world saw it. He gives the paper to Erase, who sees the symbol and tells him it looks different, and if Solitaire is behind this, then he must have had a connection with San. The detectives are nearly going crazy, all the crimes being carried out together, not understanding anything, knowing these aren't just coincidences for sure. They also consider the possibility that Solitaire might target Detective Tsubaki because he had a connection with San. Tsubaki is a bit worried and says maybe Solitaire was watching them when Polka was reading the fortune, so he learned the symbol. They keep adding possibilities, and Erase tells him anything is possible, and they need to gather more information. While they're talking, a policewoman comes in and tells Tsubaki that someone requested him by name, so he's surprised. He asks her, who could want me? And she tells him, the summit at the Capitol Police Headquarters. At the same time, Solitaire is following the news, watching the anchors talk about him and what he did, but he finds that the Capitol Police are denying it was a terrorist attack, and all the news information is wrong. Solitaire gets angry after spending all that money on the airships, and in the end, he didn't cause any fear to the people. We go back to Solitaire before he did what he did, when he was negotiating with the grocer to tell him the meaning of the symbol. The grocer tells him he'll lower the price and take 3 trillion yen for the information, shocking Solitaire, and the grocer tells him, I told you before my information is beyond price. He also tells him, if you spent your whole life earning money, you'd gather 6 trillion yen, and I only want half. This symbol is worth spending half your life on. He tells him this price is just for him. If it were someone else, he would have asked for only 10 yen, because for everyone else the symbol is just a story with no importance, a way to pass time, but for Solitaire the matter is different. He also assures him that knowing this symbol will determine many unknown things, and if he handles and uses it right, it will be the cure for him, but if he handles it badly, it will poison and and destroy his life, so 3 trillion yen is nothing for the symbol. Solitaire tells him he understands and is convinced, and after all this excitement, he feels he's going to hear a disappointing answer, but he'll pay the money. We come to the present time, and Solitaire has learned the meaning of the symbol, but he will never reveal it, and we don't understand exactly what's in his mind. Takumi asks Polka what they'll do now about Solitaire. Something unexpected happens. Seo turns out to be Eves, dropping on them and asks them, "What's this about the Empire and returning to life and all this talk?" She sits them all in front of her, wanting to understand everything, and they're all shocked, looking at the ground, not knowing what to say. Polka tells her everything, telling her he's the corpse who incarnated inside Polka, and everything that happened. Takumi looks at him and says, "You expect her to believe all this?" Polka ignores him. He tells Seo that Polka's real soul is safe and he'll return it to his body soon. Seo tells him she believes him and had noticed the change, that many actions weren't in Polka's nature. Polka is surprised, and she tells him he stayed calm when the cop caught him, which isn't in Polka's nature, and she says she ignored it because she didn't believe Polka was killed, and she'll go shower and calm herself, but will come back to ask for more details. She also says she won't tell Seo when he returns, and she's very calm as if she didn't hear anything, surprising all of them. Takumi tells Polka he knows she won't tell anyone, but doesn't he have a spell to erase her memory? Polka tells him he could have spirits under his command possess her and erase parts of her memory. The spirit would act like scissors in her head, which would affect her mind indirectly. It's not a good method used for brainwashing and confession spells. Takumi asks if it's hard to perform, and Polka says it depends on each person's nature, and the spell could destroy the person. Takumi says they shouldn't take the risk and there's no need, but Polka says if that person were an enemy, it would be easy to destroy their mind completely, shocking and terrifying Takumi. We see Saki and Seo sitting together, and Saki asks Seo, "Aren't you curious to know who killed Polka?" Seo tells her she's the one who killed him, shocking Seo and making her feel sad. Saki wants Seo to scold her for what she did because she feels guilty, but Seo tells her surely Polka forgave her because he's a kind boy, and she forgives her too, and what forgives her is that she saved Kazuki and Shizuki from the fake fire breather. Saki is very happy with what she hears. Polka confronts Seo, asking why she couldn't be the one who sent Saki to kill Polka. She tells him she would never do that, and her whole mind is occupied with sharks. If she had killed him, she would have turned him into food for sharks to scare them more. Takumi tells her he wants her to know something, that Polka's soul was put inside the shark doll. Seo is very shocked and tells them she thought there were 2 souls fighting to control the body, showing clear astonishment and shock. Takumi tells them to leave all these petty problems and focus on what they'll do about Solitaire, who is destroying the country. They're looking for a spell to identify his identity, and Polka thinks of a spell but doesn't find one. Tsubaki goes to the prosecutor general, who asks him to join his investigation team. This is, of course, anicaps' dream, but Tsubaki refuses, telling him he needs to know the purpose of the investigation organization. The prosecutor general threatens that if he doesn't agree, he'll fire him from the team, but Tsubaki doesn't care and leaves. We come to the next day and find that Polka's fortune-telling ads are posted everywhere, and people are coming from all over wanting to have their fortunes read, fully believing in Polka, and he achieves his goal of gathering money. Polka asks Takumi to try to gather any information about San, but we learn that San was killed while working on a big case, and there were people with high authority involved in this case, so they killed him and his body disappeared and no one found it. That's why Detective Tsubaki thought he was still alive. As for Tsubaki, he holds a meeting for all detectives about the Solitaire case, asking them if they have any suggestions on how to reach him and arrest him. The detectives can't stand Tsubaki and blame him for Solitaire's escape, saying none of this would have happened if not for him. But the detective tells them they must know the meaning of the symbol. If they know its meaning, they can track Solitaire. We go to Polka's workplace, and a strange person comes wanting his fortune read. Polka starts reading and tells him his ship is about to sink, and he must save it or find a replacement ship. Polka asks the person if he has any other questions, and he replies asking about the symbol Solitaire wants to know the meaning of, saying he's very curious. From here, we learn that this eccentric person is actually Solitaire in disguise. Polka tells him this is beyond his abilities and that he doesn't know. Before Solitaire leaves, Polka tells him there is a spirit in a wheelchair with 2 braids, upset about the path he's taking. Does he know someone with these traits? Solitaire avoids the question, gets tense, says no, and leaves before being found out. We go back to Detective Tsubaki talking with Erase, telling him they'll leave 100 detectives on the street, which will help them catch Solitaire quickly. Not just Solitaire, but also the fire breather and the rest of the criminals. 2 policemen come trying to pick a fight with Tsubaki, saying they hate him, but Tsubaki replies that they shouldn't be afraid or upset about what he's doing unless they're traitors and corrupt cops. They get more nervous and tell him to be careful and watch himself. Tsubaki provokes them, saying their fear is obvious and they want to turn it into a rivalry. Erase steps in to hit them, but but Tsubaki tells him not to go after the weak, laughing and provoking them more. Then a team member named Yatsu comes in with Danjo, the head of the safety department, who hits the cop arguing with Tsubaki. We go to Sheo, who as usual is standing guard over Seo, when he hears a sound coming from the roof. He quickly goes to see who it is and is shocked to find Solitaire in front of him. Sheo starts throwing knives at him while in disguise, and Solitaire thinks he's Polka. He tells him, "Show yourself," but Sheo comes out disappointed, telling him, "Don't compare me to that weakling," shocking Solitaire, who asks him who he is. While all this is happening, Polka is in a deep sleep, unaware of anything. The fire breather is out spreading fire as usual, but this time he writes with fire on Polka's house, and Polka remains unaware, dreaming of his old life when his teacher told him to watch over the empire, but he failed. Many people died because of him, and unfortunately, he couldn't save them, not living up to the responsibility, feeling guilty, and thinking he doesn't deserve the power he has. At the same time, the real Polka is trying to wake him up to see what the fire breather wrote on the wall. Polka is shocked when he wakes, takes the doll of the real Polka in his arms, gets up, puts his hand on the writing, and finds it warm. At the same time, Polka gets a call, answers it, and we learn it's the fire breather, who asks him if he's the illegitimate child of Sabermund. Polka gets angry and asks him where he knows that name from. We go back to Solitaire, who is standing on the roof of Polka's house, but Sheo is attacking him. Solitaire is surprised by his strength and composure, and that he's not afraid of him at all. Sheo keeps attacking him while the police are watching all this from a distance, waiting for these criminals to finish each other off so they can calmly arrest whoever is still alive. We go back to Polka, who is talking to the fire breather, asking him what he means by saying he's the illegitimate son, and if Sabermund exists in this world too, and what his relation is to his own world. Polka guesses and asks if he has any connection to the kingdom of Nyanilda. The fire breather tells him he doesn't know any of these terms, and we discover that there's another person standing with the fire breather, telling him exactly what to say, and that he's actually talking to Polka from just the street right behind him. The fire breather asks him, "Who are you, Polka?" And Polka starts suspecting that the fire breather is nearby. He begins using the power of spirits to scan the surrounding places to see who's around. While searching for the fire breather, he spots Sheo and Solitaire up on the roof. They're still fighting, and Solitaire is impressed with Sheo's strength, telling him he has the power of a magician, and seriously asks him to tell who he is. Sheo also doesn't know who he's facing but still proves to be strong and very hard to predict. Sheo thinks to himself what someone like this could want from Polka. He asks Solitaire what brought him here or if he's looking for someone named Hosurugi, the internal affairs inspector. Sheo tells him, "Someone like you, what would you want from him?" Solitaire starts making up stories to make Sheo believe him and leave him alone, but the stories don't fit together at all. Sheo says he has to take him down because he will surely be a threat to the boss, but Solitaire replies, "This time you'll be the one afraid of me." Sheo answers, "Show me then what you'll do." Sheo moves in to attack Solitaire, but suddenly something unexpected happens. The appearance of Lamos, the legendary civilization figure that no one can defeat, whose identity is still unknown to this day. Sheo's family, the Hyli, had announced that Lamos is untouchable and no one can go near him. Sheo remembers them as friends, but Solitaire tells him Lamos is a very dangerous person, and he can't predict what he might do to Sheo, so it's better for him to withdraw. He tells Sheo to try not to resist because if Lamos starts attacking, he won't be able to stop him. Lamos looks at Solitaire sharply, and suddenly Sheo attacks him from behind, throwing knives at him. We go to Takiro and his team, who are monitoring what's happening. A female team member asks him if Rosen's guard knows Lamos. Takiro tells her he surely noticed him during the fire that struck their family. Takiro has warned Lamos not to harm Sheo, who is Rosen's guard, in any way or even get close to him, and he is certain that Lamos will never disobey his orders no matter what happens. We go back to Sheo, who is attacking Lamos with knives, but Lamos isn't affected and doesn't even get a scratch. Lamos ignores Sheo because he promised Takiro he wouldn't hurt him, which provokes Sheo even more, making him attack again, this time with electric wires. But Lamos still ignores him and blocks all the attacks. We find that Lamos is going to attack Solitaire, which surprises Sheo, who thought they were allies. We move to the strange girl standing and looking around. Suddenly Yatsu appears in front of her, telling her not to worry about the public safety department. She looks suspicious and strange, so Yatsu asks her why she's wearing that coat in the heat, but the girl ignores him. Yatsu tells her that as police officers, they can't ignore the presence of a child in the street at 3 in the morning, and surely something is going on. Polka is surprised that the call ended suddenly. He wonders how they knew the name from his world, how details of his world and empire are reaching the human world, and and he's about to go crazy. He can't understand how the strange symbol reached Solitaire or how the Empire's name reached the fire breather, as if his old life is leaking out secret after secret, and he doesn't know who's behind it. He says that the world he ran away from and will never return to again is now the only place to find the answers he must know himself. From here, Polka gets angry and decides to go and destroy all evidence of his past. He can't leave a single clue to slip away. We go to the Empire of the Corpse's leader, and we see the former witch's lies, who raised the corpse, watching the Empire from afar, destroyed and in a miserable state, but still loving the Empire deeply. She tells her servant it used to be a classy place before it fell into war and destruction. Her guard tells her that her greatest achievement was raising the corpse, and says it's a wonderful thing when both teacher and student are equally skilled in magic, which is very rare. She tells her the corpse was one of her top 5 students, always excelling, using spirit summoning magic better than her and the other students. The servant keeps talking about the corpse's talents until Islais gets annoyed by her chatter, telling her to be quiet for a while, and says she's sure her student is standing strong till the end, though she currently knows nothing about him. Islais says the corpse's weakness is his emotions, and that he's never been aware of this flaw, never listens to anyone, and trusts anyone quickly, giving himself to anyone who treats him kindly and gently. We return to the human world, where Polka is trying to fortify the entire building with spirits because he feels the fire breather is speaking from somewhere nearby, and also because Solitaire is up on the roof. And indeed, he fortifies the building, and they all feel that something has happened, and Yatsu also senses it but doesn't get distracted from talking to the strange girl. He decides to ask her again and tells her, "What are you doing at this time?" The girl bows, apologizes to him, and tells him her dog ran away, so she and her father went out to look for it. She tells them it probably went into that building, pointing to the one where Polka is. It's a very clever trick from her to get inside without anyone suspecting. The detective asks her where her father is. A man arrives, saying he's her father and that they're looking for the dog, asking them to let his daughter go. Polka is watching all this through the spirits and says she's lying and that there are no traces of any dog in the area. He says he must tighten the security on a slightly wider scale and start spreading more spirits and eyes everywhere, and the area begins to turn red from the number of spirits there. Polka remembers when Islais taught him the basics, and the first thing he learned was to become the vessels of the underworld. Clearly, the corpse was a diligent student and learned quickly. He remembers when Islais told him to take it slow, and one day he'd be able to cover an entire castle with spirits. Back in the human world, Yatsu notices a change in the atmosphere, and the general environment of the place has shifted. He's very surprised, and the detective with him tells him the weather turned suddenly, which is not a good omen, and that something is definitely wrong. Polka comes out after finishing the spirit fortification of the roof. He wants to avoid confronting Lamos, but he's specifically targeting Solitaire and the strange girl. We learn that the girl also came to Polka for fortune reading and asked him about the symbol. These are Polka's targets, and he wants to know why they're so interested in the symbol and how they learned about it. He needs to eliminate any living evidence of anything related to the corpse. He begins preparing to rescue Sheo from Solitaire and get him out of the fight. While Sheo and Solitaire are fighting, Sheo feels the place has changed. Everything looks the same, but there's a strange energy, something different, though he can't tell what it is. Even Solitaire senses something strange and thinks it might be that gas has been released into the air, and neither of them considers the idea of spirits. He says nothing physical happened, only a gloomy feeling settling over them. When Solitaire tries to strike Lamos, something strange happens. His weapon breaks before reaching him. When Sheo attacks too, something odd happens, as if something is shocking them into not moving. Polka has reached the highest level of mastery, beginning to channel all his senses with shadows to control the spirits. Yatsu is standing under the building, sensing strange movements on the roof, and wants to call the other detectives. They think it's one of Solitaire's tricks. Solitaire manages to escape the building in an airship, while Polka is summoning all his power, forming ropes made of spirits. He creates massive, fast hands of spirits just to catch Lamos, Solitaire, and the strange girl. Polka tries with everything he has to grab them, but they're all very strong and resist. Lamos and Solitaire manage to escape, but Polka succeeds in catching the strange girl. Chaos erupts in the city. Detective Tsubaki receives a call telling them to secure the crime scene well, and Clarissa also gets information that the police will begin to move. The city is filled with chaos, and the giant spirit hands destroy anything in their path. This time, Polka couldn't hide his power. Everyone begins preparing for what will happen next, which will be unexpected. Two strange individuals appear, and the brother tells his sister that things are starting to get interesting, and the sister laughs in an evil way.